Men have always really been allowed to use music. Nobody has. Is that true?
Oh,
What does that look like? Does that look like Baryshnikov, or does that look like Magic Mike?
that's a viral video waiting to happen for sure. Although I will say that speed is generally your enemy as you're trying to make technical changes. And slowing down helps, which again is why tumble track and trampoline are really good, because it slows down a lot. And it exacerbates problems. And that's why a lot of your athletes that have some of the bigger issues with them hate it, because it makes their problem like show up even more. And then you're like, well, no, this is how we low impact fix this,
I hated it.
Yeah.
But it didn't even show up until I was already at level 10. Like I was already like, I'm not learning anything else anymore anyway, but could not figure that out for the life of me.
You're really powerful, because power, I mean, like,
yeah, I didn't know how to just like let the thing do the thing.
But again, I think that helpful, like, learn. So like you can figure out the adjustment in the ride on a tumble tramp or a trampoline, then, going from a super tight floor to a super bouncy floor is going to help you. It's a minor adjustment within your wheelhouse of how you can still handle.
Yeah, definitely. There's another thing with like the whole timing thing too. And this is always hard to, it always, like, I have to preface it whenever I say this to an athlete. I'm like, I know this is going to sound wrong, but when they're doing two saltos directly connected, regardless of what it is, that second one is supposed to be higher than the first one. So you got to kind of like chill out on the first one so that the second one pops. But it's so hard, especially with these younger ones. Like you don't ever want to tell them to hold back. Like you want them to be powerful and aggressive, but then it's like, you can't, that's like doing a really high back handspring and expecting to do a high back tuck out of it. You got to do that to do that. So in those like double salto passes, like that 1.5 should be like long and low and then pop it up. And that's why I've always said, if you're doing a 1.5, do it out of a round off. If you're doing a full double full or triple full, do it out of a handspring. Otherwise you got to do a different kind of round off and you're doing extra work. So the whole point of a 1.5, nobody really does a 1.5 for 1.5 sake. So if you're going, you're ready, you're locked and loaded. If you're doing a 1.5, the whole point is to connect other stuff out of it. So that 1.5 now has to serve the same purpose as a front handspring would into that front tuck, not something that goes straight up in the air and straight down again, because now you're screwed. So if you go out of a back handspring, you got to go, okay, round off feet under, back handspring. Normally my feet are back here, but now I got to pull my feet under because my 1.5's got to go backwards. But when I go to my double full, I got to do the other handspring. Like, too freaking complicated. Just do the round off that you always do, but ease up on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Round off 1.5 punch front. Boom.
That's why you see that into a lot of combo tumbling. But again, your power changes how the angle you can come in. And so we, like your mag round off, if you will, where you kiss where you give the floor carpet a little smooch into your triple full or because your hands are this wide. You're basically in your wide arm handstand and your round off. And I'm like, what kind of trash round off is that? I was like, well, when you have the power, you can actually come in to the floor at this angle. And because you have enough power, you will just freaking skyrocket all the time in the world to wrap a triple full or a quad or whatever. Floor bounciness matters. Floor bounciness and power comes into a play hugely on your angle of entry and your round off, right? Like
those man round offs are a sight to behold, though. I mean, when you see it live and you see it like dead on, every freaking time I'm like, oh no, because they go so around the side to hit that angle. But speaking, looking at it from a physics standpoint, like of course it makes sense. But I've never seen a woman do it that way. And I also want to know, like, is there a time where you're like, okay, now I'm ready to start? Is it like learning the rules and then breaking them, right? Like, or are you taught as a kid to bring it around the side so that you come in low?
I think this is the quintessential perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, which is having the time to play. Some terrible round off guy learned how to tumble this way. And it worked. And so there's a book called Game On, and it talks about like the early specialization or hyper hyper focus and early on in athletics in this country. And a lot of it stemmed from the Tiger Woods effect, because Tiger Woods' dad raised him from birth to become the greatest golfer on the face of the earth. And great, yeah, that worked. But you know what? There was like hundreds and thousands of other dads that did the same thing, and you don't know who they are because they were never very good at golf. And so basically what it talks about is like, you eliminate your ability to play and explore and find truly what style of technique works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book talks a lot about even the right sport for you, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like Tiger, so like, great, he actually ended up being in his sport, but like for maybe 20 of those other golfers, they would have been actually unbelievable tennis players, but you stuck with you went to golf too early. And so, you know, and so like, think about that from a technique standpoint of like, if you're a coach and you're like, this is the technique that works because I know it the best,
Because
and
I've
so
taught it
that's what
before.
we're going to do. And then the kid's like, I really don't feel comfortable. Then he goes to camp. He's like, man, I really love this technique. And he goes back to the coach, and the coach is like, what are you doing? We've talked about that. We don't do that here in this
That's
gym.
not what we do here.
Yeah. And then the kid's like, God, I really love that way. It works great. I did the best ones I've ever done at camp when I was allowed to play, you know? And so like, again, like giving them the freedom to play a little bit and find out. And it might just be a tweak on your technique, but like to the kid, that makes all the difference in the world, that they're able to add their little spin that makes them comfortable, makes them feel it, own it, understand it better. And then you've got a better gymnast on your hands.
I know a nice segue into this, because we were talking about man round offs and haven't seen girls do it. Is the potential and the already initiated crossover. I like to call it the Heath Thorpe effect of some of these artistic skills and artistic choreography showing up on the men's side. I think a lot of people don't realize, and I might be totally wrong, but I swear that I heard this, that men have always really been allowed to use music. They just, nobody has. Is that true?
Oh,
I heard that from Rick McCharles on some interview.
I can tell you there's no music piece in like the men's
compulsory
points. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
You can't, though. It just doesn't. It's not
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
And so, you know, what does that look like? Does that look like Baryshnikov, or does that look like Magic Mike? Like it can be whatever. Artistry is up to the artist. When that might get the viewership up. I'm just saying, especially if you do whatever that just was.
That's a viral video waiting to happen for sure. No, I think Heath Thorpe is awesome because he brings such a great, it's just a difference, right? It's truly bringing some artistry into artistic gymnastics. Even just down to his skill selection, I've always appreciated. Like, honestly, he really reaped the benefits of the code change. Like, I just look at kind of some of the upgrades they made, specifically on high bar. Like, it's the stuff he does. And so I thought that was cool. Like, I don't know why and this could be a whole nother deep dive, but like, to me, we still have not figured out how to differentiate stuff on floor correctly. I still go back. It's my perfect example of like a back 2.5 and a double layout, or a D value for men's on floor. I would go back 2.5, 12 seconds from now in my gym. I would do it, no problem, into a resi. I would never consider throwing a double layout. It would for sure result in paralysis. Like, I would never try a double layout right now. And so like, there's just got to be a better way to differentiate floor skills on for everyone, really. Like, especially as you're starting to see triple doubles and 3.5 twisting double layouts. Holy hell.
Oh my gosh. Who just said that?
3.5, and he's an Aussie, I think. No, he's GB. He's from GB. Jacob is his name? I don't know. I follow him. It's amazing. He's insane.
Yeah. That last half is just like boop right at the end.
Spots it. Triple double. Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so cool. But there's stuff outside of quote unquote artistic skills that seem to still, like, it's weird to see a man do it, but why? Like, why don't men do Jaegers? I know Heath does now, but like, why do we rarely see Jaegers?
Wasn't really worth it.
Is that what it
is? Just personally, like, I like flipping, counter rotating back to the bar. Not a fan. That's a great way to split your face open. Gingers and Jaegers. You know, Tkachev, not as much, because you're still drifting away versus coming back to the bar.
yeah, okay.
You know, so a Kovacs for me was just the safest thing. Like, I never ever came close to my face. Like, I mean, I probably like brushed a cheekbone, but you're rotating away from the bar. So like, you're not coming into it. You're rotating past it or away from it, unless you really screw one up, which happens. But if you really screw a ginger up too, like you're going to Tarzan that thing. You're going to
Yeah.
be all over it. So rotating back towards the bar, I just think inherently isn't very fun. No one wants to do that. So
Yeah, yet it's like basically the most popular release move in women's gymnastics, level 10 and elite. I mean, everybody does them.
is
Huh?
you don't have Kovacs.
We don't, but also like, could we? I mean, do you see that happening?
I don't know. Give me a person who can do giants with unbelievable power, and
But
we'll
what
get
about just the difference in the bar? Like, do you think that's even possible given the way that the bar gives, the width
the
of the
way it
bar?
thinks, and then that other stinking low bar in the way. Probably not. It would be janky as hell. It might be on a single rail. We could get it done for sure. With the full comp bar set, I don't know. Probably not.
But then there's the whole thing. Like there was a athlete in '92, I think, that did the Gaylords, which is like the front. It's like a front Kovacs kind of. Is that a
Yeah,
good way to explain
that
it?
is Gaylord. Yes.
And there was another one that did a one-arm giant, and they just didn't value it because they didn't want to see that actually going in that direction.
I
So
made one arm.
the idea is just because you value it at something, that just gives the opportunity for some people that have a knack for it to do it. But just because it's rated as something doesn't mean you have to. So like, you don't have to, men, do a tour jeté half because it's worth a C or a D now. That just is another option of a skill choice that you can choose. And I feel like there's like this little fear of like, oh, well, now everybody has to do leaps. Like maybe it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe there's just more options of ways that you can fulfill your start value.
Yeah, well, that's the way that they have created the code of points and mandating like higher elements. Is that the new code change? Like every element has to be like a C or a D or higher to even get credit for the element group. I kind of hate the idea of element groups. They do it because they're trying to increase the variety of skills that you see in the routines. But for me, I'm like, is that what you need? Do you need to see more like twirly things on high bar? Or if some wacko wants to get on the bar and do 7 epic release moves in connection, why?
Let that
Why
be his thing. Yeah.
why would we be preventing him from doing that? Like for me personally, I would have done release moves all day, but I had to do an in bar. Can't touch my toes. Horrendous at flexibility my entire life, despite giving it so much freaking effort. I like couldn't do a talk, like the stupid stuff. Like endos till this day was probably my hardest skill I ever had to learn in gymnastics, but it was a freaking requirement. So I had
That's
to
my
do
favorite skill in gymnastics, by the way.
garbage endo. What?
That's my favorite skill in gymnastics.
An endo?
I don't know, not to do. I just aesthetically speaking, it's like my favorite thing to look at.
No,
Yeah, I love it.
hate it. It's trash.
This
Anyway,
is trash.
hated it.
Get out of my kitchen.
Yeah. Or if you want to do like double laid out, triple back, triple double.
Yeah.
Like, why do we need to see you front tumble?
Well, if it's called artistic gymnastics, so it should be the artist's self that is shown. And so we should see a variety across the board of what the athletes are doing, but not because if every athlete has to show variety, then every athlete's going to end up doing the same routine anyway. They're going to do their giant full, they're going to do their front skill, they're going to do their like that's where you actually start getting everybody looking the same.
Resistance. Yeah, they find
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Whereas, like you said, yeah, if you have somebody that's
strength.
I'm a release person. Okay, well then that's your art. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Do 900 releases and let's see somebody that's doing pirouettes and let's see who executes their given skills better. But great, now we have variety. We have different people doing different things.
For real. But that's what I was saying. It's ironic that they're trying to actually increase the variety, but it's for 9 quads in a row, it's kind of done the opposite.
Yeah.
Just let it be a free for all. Let it be a free market. Let people, and I think you'd find that you'd have some more exemplary gymnasts because they're able to truly capitalize on their strengths rather than forcing them to do 3 things they can't do. Like my favorite one was parallel bars, for God's sakes. Like long hang used to be like you had to long hang, like extended arms. There were 6'4" dudes that were like, I physically literally can't hit my knees. They just go me. And like,
yeah.
and so the code changed. Now, like, it's just underbar swing. So peaches and long hangs are in it together. But like for the longest time, like you literally just take a hit on the long hang, I guess.
Yeah.
And you work to raise the bars. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Just let them do
Yeah,
1,000 upper bar skills, like Gatson 2, diamond half, back toss, like do all upper bar stuff. You still be an exemplary parallel bar. That would be a very different routine to what parallel bars was back in my era, which looked a lot like high bar. Just on 2 bars instead of 1. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then, athletes can have their identity, just like artists, because it is artistic gymnastics, after all.
Yeah. How do you incorporate artistry in value, though?
I think having more selections of skills that have those value, like, so like that tour jeté that Heath does, or he does like a switch side hat. I've seen him do everything. He does them so well, and I'm not saying they're easy for him. It's taken a ton of work, but he has the aptitude to do that more so than other people based on the body composition, the way that people's strengths and weaknesses. So I think that he's going to be able to be artistic because he's able to go way further in his own direction.
Yeah.
And I think you might get somebody's just like a crazy twister. Like, if you allow them to only twist, they might start doing some really cool like flare out or whatever. Like, like iron cross stuff where they open the hands and nod the chin. Like, once you master something, I think you can start to play with it and like make it special. But when you have to learn 9 other categories of skills that don't suit you just to fulfill the code, they're going to be just fine and perfect like everybody else's are.
The FIG should really reach out. We figured it out.
They really should. We got all the answers here.
We just knocked it out in 10 minutes. So easy.
In 10 minutes or an hour and 15. But yeah, we knocked it out.
We just fixed all of Mag and Wag in 12 minutes. Amazing.
That was really good.
Get rid of the 40 by 40 floor. Can we just get rid of that?
Like, not have a floor?
No, have a tumble strip.
Oh.
I'm just thinking from a logical standpoint. You have to set up for meets. How much do you have to lug in to set up?
Oh God, it's the
worst. Is that?
And then tear down too.
And everything. It's the most cumbersome thing in all of gymnastics, and we don't need it at all. At all. Floor exercise was the floor when you literally just ran out and they taped a square on the gym wood floor.
Wrestling mat,
in the 60s. Yeah, it was just the wrestling mat. And so we've maintained the floor as if we need it to show off artistry, but we do not. You could just go back and forth and you could do your leap series and you can show performances, like you don't need it. And think of how much cost cutting, how much is space saving in your gym. It'll never get done. It's crazy. But like, I've thought about this often. Same thing with the ring tower. My God,
the ring tower.
It's just a barrier to entry for so many gyms. Like,
I was just going to say, that's like a huge reason why a lot of clubs don't have boys competitive, because they can't fit a ring tower in their gym.
Yeah, it's not necessary. And the 40 by 40 floor, it's not necessary. Use technology, you guys. Look what we did with the vault. We went from the freaking death trap of women doing your CHENKOs to a missing the vault. It's super dangerous. Like, let's make a vault look like a giant tongue. How about that? And
hey, it keeps everyone safe.
This is crazy. And then like, now it's just normal. That's what vault is. But like, how about those inflatable floor pieces? Can you imagine if all you had to do to set up for a competition was roll out a giant piece of vinyl, those inflatable like floor surfaces, and you had your tumble strip done? It took one person 10 minutes to set up the floor. And it costs $6,000.
Oh, and then you could have like 4 floors going at the same time.
Man, that would make life easier.
More kids in the meet.
No. We back in the truck. We need 80 pieces of plywood with pre-drilled screws and into the springs. Then we got to unroll the foam, bring out the heavy ass carpet. Like, no. That's way more. We need that. That's better. That's for sure better. Why? What are we doing?
Working harder, not smarter. Although I don't know if I should be agreeing with you, because you might put me out of a job, but unless we can we're just doing lines of choreography in between. And I mean, limitations spawn creativity. So if there's only this wide, what can you figure out? I bet you could come up with some cool stuff because you're limited.
Yeah. For every time you fan out into like a leap sequence, like just realize you saved millions of dollars.
Yeah.